I'm pleased to have a return appearance by Madeleine Redfern, who is now the Executive Director Northern Branch of Arctic 360, Canada's premier Arctic think tank. Welcome back, Madeleine.
Thank you.
So I guess first question, Arctic 360, maybe tell us a little bit about that and some of the issues you're tracking with that particular think tank.
So Arctic 360s is Canada's only Arctic think tank. We have a majority Indigenous and Northern board members that guide the work. We're looking at, of course, all the issues regarding Arctic development, and primarily with a special focus on how the business sector can help Canada and the North build the needed infrastructure, whether that's also developing a strategy, getting the funding and the financing, recognizing that we're going to need the federal government, provincial and territorial governments, local governments, and Indigenous nations participate in ensuring that we get infrastructure that we need that is not only good for our communities, for civilian purposes, but even more increasingly since the invasion of Ukraine, NORAD modernization, which is also good for defense.
Yeah, so your interlocutors then are all of those groups, Indigenous, local, territorial, provincial, federal.
Absolutely. We do also have academics that are, of course, researching and providing some input there. But more importantly is ensuring that anything about us, without us, is the mantra that many Northerners and Indigenous people say, is that we need to be part of those conversations, and we need to be part of deciding how we're going to build out this infrastructure. And more Indigenous nations and communities want to actually own that infrastructure and ensure that it's what happened in the past during World War II or in the Cold War. A lot of that infrastructure didn't always benefit our communities.
Right.
We've got to do better this time.
Right. So it was kind of like these separate islands doing security work or what have you. It really wasn't part of the community. Is that right?
Often. And so I'm really happy to say that we're hearing, both from the US, but also the Canadian military saying that the type of infrastructure that they need for NORAD modernization is the same type of infrastructures needed in our communities. And whether that is for telecommunications, power, and for transportation. So let's be strategic about it this time, and it can be a win-win-win if we do it right.
So can you give us a little bit more detail then on the security issues that are facing the Arctic right now?
So the Gordon Foundation, which I was a part of, actually did a survey a few years back, and understandably, a lot of those security issues weren't just looking at the military. They were looking at human security, the necessity for water supply that is abundant and safe, housing, environmental security, but equally economic security, and as well, of course, sovereignty and defense. There is an opportunity to see these intersections, aligning, especially, as I said, with NORAD modernization, with the billions of dollars of investment that we're going to see actually happen in our northern regions.
So would you say that from your perspective, that's a broad security mandate? It's not just sort of national security. So are you getting a lot of interest in discussing those broader issues?
We are now having those types of conversations. Everyone recognizes that there is no single level of government or a single, source of funding that is going to build out all the infrastructure that we need, both for our communities and or in the defense sector. So we know that telecommunications is in dire, need and condition for, upgrading. Nunavut is the only region with no subsea or terrestrial fiber connection, and nothing replaces fiber. We're going to see with all domain awareness the need for tremendous amounts of data that defense sector needs, and in order to be able to be aware of the incursions and the threats that are happening in our region, and to be able to respond.
Madeleine, we're just going to take a break.